Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, welcome everyone to the second day of our mini-series, The Significance of this auspicious month of Kartik. So, we are here at the Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir, ISKCON Trinidad, Longdonville. This is our headquarters temple in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have been meeting every evening and will continue for the rest of the month of Kartik. Here at the temple,
Can anyone hear?
We have Kirtan from 6 every evening. At 6:30, we have the Damodara Ashtakam and offering of ghee lamps. And our GBC, our dear Guru Prasad Maharaj, has graciously agreed to join with us so that we can deepen our meditation on this beautiful month of Kartik. So today is part 2 of Maharaj's discourse on the auspiciousness of this holy month and how devotees should observe this beautiful month. So at this point in time, we would like to invite His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj, who would continue with part 2 of the glories of this beautiful month of Kartik. Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'll just chant for a couple minutes and then begin. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhaj Picharya Ashtotar Shata Shishimat Abhaya Charanada Binda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhaj Picharya Ashtotar Shata Shishimat Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi ki, Samapita Bhakti Vindi ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Prihat Miranga ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. So today, I will try to explain some points from the second verse of the Damodara, which basically follows. The second verse is basically a summary of the ninth chapter. You know, the basic summary of the ninth chapter. Of course, these verses are not like meant to, you know, reflect the chronological order of things given in the Bhagavatam or all the details. They jump from many times from one thing to another. So the second verse begins, first of all, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Dishatarine. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, who gave us understanding of Damodar and who has Damodar has attached the Supreme Lord by the ropes of his mercy to our consciousness. So, Rudantam Muhur. Again and again, he's crying. He may be crying for three reasons. One, because he's afraid of Mother Yashoda. Two, because he's trying to exaggerate the actual intensity of what's happening. And three, because he's trying to stop the tears. Now, of course, if we follow the ninth chapter of the Bhagavatam, if we follow it, then we can see in the beginning that, you know, Mother Yashoda, as we discussed briefly yesterday, she is very determined because, you know, just like any, as they say, if you love someone, love his dog. No? So, because Yashoda loves so much Krishna, and she wants, she's very upset that so many of her friends are coming and complaining about Krishna. Very, very upset. And so she wants to make sure that Krishna, it's not because, you know, she, out of false ego, she thinks my milk sweets aren't the best. No, not because of that. She thinks that my milk sweets, because I'm not personally taking care of making all these milk sweets, and therefore Krishna is being criticized. This is her anxiety. Krishna is being criticized. No, this is what is so disturbing to her. That somehow or another Krishna is not being properly, you know, honored. It says in the Bhagavatam that she was, as she would churn the milk, she would think of Krishna's pastimes. She would think it, and she would put them into poetry. Although she was a simple cowherd lady, she was so absorbed in Krishna that she could compose perfect poetry, just like the gopis of Vrindavan. They never went to school. They never had any Sanskrit studies, but in perfect Braj, you know, the language of Vrindavan, which is similar to Sanskrit, but it's a little more flowing and poetic than Sanskrit's more structured. So she expressed this beautiful poetry. And the gopis, although very simple, they would sometimes compose the most beautiful verses glorifying Krishna. Especially we find chapter 21 of the 10th canto, which I'm going to speak on the 4th of November, on the strategic planning initiative. And so they just glorify in the most beautiful verses, which has a very special meter. And they can compose. So she's glorifying Krishna. And therefore she wants to glorify Krishna by stopping this criticism of Krishna. And this is why she's very determined. And Krishna is very determined. While she's churning, Krishna grabs the churning rod and stops it. He's very, you know, she had gotten up, she started churning. She wanted to have this fresh butter ready for Krishna as soon as he woke up. But he woke up, he was hungry. He wanted to drink her breast milk. So he grabbed the mortar and he stopped and she put him on her lap and she began to feed him. But as we briefly mentioned yesterday, the milk began to boil over. And she went. And our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas all comment, this was not due to negligence. Just like sometimes nowadays, sometimes people, people sometimes they, you know, they're interested in something to do, so they find a babysitter, or they somehow or another put the children, you know, in front of the TV so they can do what they want. But Mother Yashoda never thought, everything was for Krishna's pleasure. Her whole life was just like a normal mother with a child of 1 month old. You can't be separated. You always have to be with the child. And deriving so much pleasure. Even any ordinary mother in this world, although she has to chastise her child, the mood of Yashoda was, I want to chastise Krishna so he will be a perfect human being, so that he will always be glorified, so everyone will love him as much as I love him. So she was so concerned. And then she got up, she left. Krishna became angry. It says that in the beginning, when he became angry, that she left, he had Misha Ashru. He had tears, fake tears, fake or sometimes when a child becomes angry, they make tears. Or sometimes women become very emotional and they have what they call crocodile tears. Because the tears of a crocodile always has tears because he's going underwater, coming out of the water. So they're not real expressing full emotion. They're actually meant to achieve a purpose. They have a purpose. So the purpose was to show how angry he was. Of course, Mother Yashoda didn't see those false tears. And then he broke a pot. He broke a hole in the pot. And then after he broke a hole in the pot, that was to punish Mother Yashoda. Then he went and he decided, not only will I do that, I will feed all of the existing butter. So he turned over the mortar, which was quite extraordinary because these mortars were very big. If anyone's been to South India, you see still nowadays almost everyone has these big stone mortars. And so how Krishna, a little baby, could turn that huge wooden mortar. This was a wooden mortar, it wasn't as heavy as a stone one, but still it was very heavy. And he turned it over and he was feeding the monkey. And then Mother Yashoda came, she saw, she said, this, because sometimes crows, especially in India, crows are very crafty. They're very capable. Sometimes, just like in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, one time a crow came and stole Jagannath Mishra's ghee for worshiping the deity and took it away. And Nityananda came, and Shachi Mata was in anxiety. And Nityananda just moved his hand, and the crow flew back in, put down the ghee, and flew away. I was once in South India, and we were taking breakfast. And so these crows, so intelligent. One crow flew over beside us and started making a lot of noise. And when we looked at the crow, another crow came and took our fruit. So very, very intelligent, these crows. So it could have been a crow, could have been an animal, but she looked at the whole. It was very carefully done with great skill. She heard tears. She saw Krishna's footprints. So by the forensic evidence, she could see that Krishna, and also she could hear in the next room, she could hear the Krishna's footprints. Otherwise, she could hear Krishna moving around. And so, and hear his ankle bells. So she was smiling, She was smiling for several reasons. One of those reasons was Krishna is so clever. A mother, just like sometimes we see devotee ladies when their children, like a 3-year-old or something, beating a little mini mridanga and jumping and chanting, and the mother's thinking, oh, he's a pure devotee. But actually, he may not be a pure devotee. He may be a child. Children are very expert at imitating. So, but anyway, she was thinking, oh, so skillful, so capable. And then she wanted to, very carefully, she looked around just with her neck. She looked around the corner. She wanted to sneak up on Krishna. She wanted to chastise him. But she wanted to chastise him so that he would learn not to do these things. Not because she didn't want him to do it, but because she wanted him to be there and to experience the love that she wants to show him by preparing all these wonderful preparations. So this was her effort to do this. And so she went up to that mortar. She took a stick because she was thinking, let me take this stick and let me chastise Krishna, so that he will learn that he cannot do these things. And so she held the stick up, and Krishna was thinking, what is she doing? And she was thinking like this: you bind up people, otherwise you, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who are engulfed in theft, anger, and low qualities, and you make them cry by the movements of material energy. Now you, who have committed thefts, and you are overcome with anger, and you're crying, now I'm going to bind you up. This is the love. She's thinking, momentarily, Yashoda, the gopis, even the cowherd boys, they would have a glimpse of Krishna. You are punishing everyone in this material world. But then she's thinking, I'm going to punish you. Just like you punish other people, I'm going to punish you. Don't think because you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she's like indirectly thinking this, you can get away with this. And so she was very, very, very full of this love, feeling this love for Krishna. And of course, any parent, sometimes they show some show of force, they make a show of force to convince their child to act in the proper way. So that was the whole purpose of the stick. And so this is called Vatsalya Prema. This Vatsalya Prema is previously, in the previous chapter at the end, in verse number 46, the question was posed that why, what did the parents do? What did Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj do to get to be in this position? And Shukadeva Goswami said, well, they were Drona and Dara. But Parikshit Maharaj wasn't very satisfied by that answer. So now this Damodara lila is to give the real answer. He is so beautiful. He's so attractive. Krishna has become their son and is performing these wonderful pastimes. And they're simply reciprocating out of their prema, Vatsalya prema. So this is the real answer. What, just like Krishna said to the gopis, that naparaye ham niravadya samyutam. He said, my dear gopis, how can I ever pay you back? You have left your home, family, friends, your reputation, everything, things that are very difficult to give up. Therefore, even if I had the lifetime of Brahma, I could not pay you back. If I had the lifetime of Brahma. What your payment is, your very own devotion. Because the intensity of your devotion, the intensity of your love is greater than the intensity of my love. Therefore, how can I give something that is beyond me, that is greater than me? And this is something very wonderful coming from Krishna. How can there be anything greater than Krishna? But the love of his devotees is even greater than Krishna's love, although there's a constant competition going on. So the residents of Vrindavan, Lord Brahma, later on in the Bhagavatam, the 14th chapter, a few chapters afterwards, he speaks one beautiful verse, Esha Gosha Nivasisam Utabhavakim Devaratiti Nash. That, the residents of Vrindavan, of Braja, they are so amazingly attached to your lordship. Chatta Vishwa Param Swaraparam Kutrapyayam Muyanti. That they have received unlimited benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who can understand that from this person? Shat Vishat Eva Punapi Sakulam, who just Putana, just by dressing herself up as a devotee of Krishna and artificially feeding him milk, where later on Uddhava, when he meets with Maitreya, he speaks one beautiful verse which is glorified again and again, also in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam chigam saya payaya dapiswadvi lebhe katim dat ruchitam tatonyam kamba dayalum sharanam rachima. Which means that this witch, she poisoned her breasts out of envy and out of asadbi, out of the desire, nothing auspicious. She desired to poison Krishna. But lebe gatim, she achieved, tatyuchitam, the position of a nurse, otherwise a similar position to a senior gopi. Kamba Dayanum, who can understand the mercy that Krishna is giving? And therefore we should take shelter of him, who takes shelter of the devotion of his devotees. So if Putana and her family members, where is it? Putanapi Sakula, like Bakasura, Agasura, these were her family members. but especially Putana, because she took the position of a devotee. She and her family members were blessed. What to speak of the blessing? No, yad dharmartam suhrit priyatama tanaya panayasti tatve. What to speak of the blessings of those who what more can you give to these devotees whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relatives, bodies, children, and their very lives and hearts are dedicated only to you? Otherwise, you gave yourself to Putana. You give yourself to all kinds of different people out of your extreme causeless mercy. Who can understand how many unlimited benedictions these residents of Vrindavan have received? So Krishna is so special. So these false tears, Yashoda comes, she comes with this big stick, and Krishna's thinking, no? Therefore we get into our verse to today. Rudantam muhur, crying and crying, Nityayugam Rijantam Karam Vojayumena, that with his two lotus hands, he's rubbing his eyes again and again, rubbing them, and the kajal is dripping down his face. Just like sometimes a woman wearing cosmetics will cry and there's some black lines going down their face. Actually, when I used to do Sankirtan in Ecuador, when you go up in the mountains and it's very cold, it's always cold. So the people don't bathe very often. Sometimes this would happen in Bogota. At Bogota, we had to put somebody on the front door of the temple. And when people took off their shoes, we would sometimes have to ask them, because sometimes people didn't bathe for 1 or 2 months. So we'd have to ask them, please go around the back and you can have some soap and a towel so they could wash their feet. But I was doing Sankirtan on a hot day. These people had not bathed and they would be sweating and there was like streaks going down on their faces. So sometimes when I hear this pastime, I remember that Sankirtan. You can imagine what that bus would smell like, full of people who have not bathed for 1 month on a hot day. So you can just imagine how difficult that is. So he's crying. He's crying. He's moving his hands, and this is lila vishesha. This is the excellence of his pastimes. How much detail there is in this pastime. His eyes overwhelmed by the fright, or his eyes were just totally he was trying to avoid being punished. That's the main thing. He was just wanted to avoid being punished at any cost. So this expression in his eyes, which that was of course glorified by Queen Kunti, who said, Queen Kunti in her prayers, she said, Gopya date twaye kritagasi. Kritagasi means very mischievous, very, very, very naughty. Damodara. This very fortunate gopi, because of your misdeeds, because of your creating so many disturbances, she took a rope. And when she took that rope to at that time, Yate dashashru kalilang jana sambramaksham. Your very perturbed eyes were overflooded with tears. And bhaktram nida, Vaya Bhavanaya Stitasya. And your head was down like this, in thoughts of fear. And who can understand this situation? Samam Vimohayati. Queen Kunti says, I'm so bewildered because you're showing this fear when fear personified itself. Virapiyad Vivyati. When fear itself is afraid of you, yet you are fearful. Therefore, this exhibition is beyond my comprehension. It's simply beyond my comprehension. I cannot understand how Krishna can be like this. So this is the first part. He's frightened. His eyes are frightened. Then muhu swashakampa. Muhu swasakampa. Swasakampa means you're breathing. You're heavy breathing. Trirekamkakanta. Cause your neck to shake, and that shaking stikta graiva. That shaking caused this beautiful necklace around your that's hanging around your neck. It caused it to vibrate. Damodara. So in this particular pastime, the Damodara, this is the actual Damodara. This is Mother Yashoda Damodaram. Of course, Dhamma means rope, Udara means belly. Now in the previous chapter, Krishna had displayed within his mouth, otherwise within his abdomen, Mother Yashoda saw universe and unlimited universes within the mouth of Krishna. So how could she possibly think, if she saw the whole universe? This is, of course, brought up at the end of this particular prayer. So all these universes, how could she think that with a little piece of rope, that she could tie him up? So she began this intense labor of tying up Krishna. And of course, this is nothing easy. And this is described in the 14th verse of this 9th chapter, that she bound him to the mortar as if he were an ordinary child. Now, in those verses, there's one verse where Srila Prabhupada has a very long purport, and the acharyas have these like 4 or 5 page purports describing. Maybe I can just look up that verse, because this is when she's actually tying him up. I'm just trying. Let me see if I can find that particular verse. Anyway, it describes Krishna as inside of everything, outside of everything. Krishna is the supreme. Krishna is unlimited. And so, but Mother Yashoda saw him as an ordinary child. Otherwise, he's so full of opulences, just like Lord Brahma when he's praying to Krishna in the beginning of the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. He says, I will never be bewildered. I, who know what's going on in the hearts of everyone, was totally bewildered by this form which is standing before me, but I will never be bewildered again by seeing this wonderful child, you, he's speaking to Krishna, this wonderful child, you, with one hand holding a herding stick and the other hand with butter. I saw that and I thought you were an ordinary child, but now I have realized that that form is unlimited. But Mother Yashoda, even after seeing the form is unlimited, she saw him as an ordinary child. And so she began to try to tie Krishna to this mortar. And for Krishna now, he's not crying. Because why is he not crying so much? Because she raised his stick and he objected. He was thinking, she's never beaten me. Will she beat me? I don't think she'll beat me. But so he's saying to Krishna Krishna saying with his eyes, as stated in these particular verses, that Stita Graivam Damodara. So here it says Damodaram Bhakti Badham. He can be bound by the love of his devotees, but he cannot be bound by a rope. So first of all, Krishna wants to show that he cannot be bound by a rope. That's the first thing he wants to show. That his supreme position. So he's showing his supreme position, but Mother Yashoda can't understand it. She ties one rope, she ties another rope, she ties another rope, she ties another rope. And all of her friends start laughing. First she's frustrated. She's tying one after another. She's perspiring. Her face is turning red. And her friends are laughing, at this. This is so funny. This, all these wonderful, can you imagine, if in Trinidad, a big bird whose head is so high it's in the clouds, like Bakasura or Agasura, whose mouth open looked like a gigantic cave. Can you imagine what you would do if you saw something like that? Sometimes we see a little tiny snake and we, scream, or a little mouse, or even a cockroach. People go, oh, run away. And so, but they didn't run away. They just said, Krishna, Krishna, here's this huge demon, Krishna, do something. So they're seeing all these mystical things going on. And, but they're totally, they're just kind of laughing at it. And finally, Mother Yashoda begins to laugh also, that this incident is called Bhaktyaiva Badham. It's a mutual interaction between, between Yashoda and, let me just see if I can, I noted something down about this, and let me try to find it. Yes, so this is called Bhaktyaiva Badham, that Yashoda, from her point of view, she is feeling so much, she's feeling bound by her motherly affection to Krishna. And Krishna, from his point of view, he's feeling bound by Bhaktavasyata, bound by the love of his devotee. And Yashoda is bound by love for her son. So these are two competing loving ecstasies. And of course, this competition of loving ecstasies is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Jiva Goswami further explains them in different literatures. But this is the real science. Otherwise, when scientists talk about science, they're talking about the constantly changing material world. I was speaking about this morning in a little Rath Yatra ceremony in Panama, where this whole incident of Yashoda Mai, the whole Jagannath means Jagat, and Prabhupada explains Jagat comes from Gachati, which means moving. Everything in the material world is moving. But these pastimes, the science presented by Rupa Goswami is eternal. It's an eternal science. It never changes. It's flowing because it's a constant competition of increasing loving devotion between the devotee and the Supreme Lord. But it's always there. Whereas everything in this material world, which so-called scientists of the material world categorize as a constant, just like those of us who studied mathematics and physics, we know Planck's constant, Einstein's constant. Otherwise, there's something, so absolute zero. Absolute zero is supposed to be the temperature below which nothing can move. Everything is totally frozen. Nothing can move. And so these are absolutes in the scientific world, but they're not absolute because they change and they disappear. But this is real science because it describes something that is eternal truth. So wonderful, so incredible. So this is going on, always two fingers. So what do those two fingers mean? They mean two things. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this. One is parishrama, great effort. And the other one is kripa, mercy. One finger means the effort of the devotee, which is called bhaktanishta. Bhaktanishta, the effort of the devotee to please Krishna. And the other finger is swanishta, the determination of Krishna to always give his mercy, even to Putana, even to Aghasura, even to all the demoniac soldiers fighting against the Pandavas on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna is determined to give his mercy. So this is what these two fingers represent. These two fingers are the main ingredients of bhakti. Bhakti cannot thrive without these two elements. They cannot thrive. They cannot exist. They must exist. The effort, a devotee always trying to please Krishna, bhaktanishta, his determination to always please Krishna and to always do something which we saw personified in Srila Prabhupada to the greatest degree. And the mercy and the Krishna's determination to always help his devotee go beyond any obstacle. So these are the two things that are found in these fingers. You know, these two fingers always caught short. But after Krishna exhibited his very powerful supremacy, no one can bind him, no one can bind the universe. But Mother Yashoda, she, by her determination, her bhaktanishta, her great determination to protect Krishna, as I mentioned yesterday, she was very concerned. Prabhupada mentions this 2 times in this particular chapter, 9th chapter of the 10th canto, that she was very afraid. She wasn't really trying to punish him, but she was afraid that she'd never seen him so fearful. And then she saw him run away from her. And she thought he may try to run away. No, I've been too severe. I held a stick up. And then I showed him these ropes. So she thought, and then Krishna, of course, he could have tried to run away, but he lied there, waiting for her to tie him, showing his supremacy, but then showing the supremacy of her love by finally allowing himself to be tied. She was finally able to achieve that. And so it was a very wonderful pastime. And at the end of this particular chapter, there's 3 very, very beautiful verses, which I would like to refer to. The first one, which is I think, let me see, it's 10, 9, 19. In that particular verse, Evam Sarashita Yanga. Within the whole universe, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, they are all under control. Yasye Dam Swasharam Vashe. They're all under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Harina Britya Vashyata. Britya means devotee. the quality of the Lord becoming submissive under the control of his devotee, Swavashinapi Krishnena. Who he's Swavashina. He's the only one who can control himself besides Srimati Radharani, and the love of the gopis and Srimati Radharani. But he's in full control, Atmaram, fully satisfied. No, Swarat, as it says in the first verse of the Bhagavatam, totally independent of everything. But this Krishna, when he's in contact with his pure devotees, even to the point which we will see later on in the verse 10:25, the next chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10th chapter of the 10th canto, the 25th verse, Krishna, that's where Krishna contemplates that I must save these two devotees. Why? Because Narada Muni has blessed them, and he is my devotee, and they're the sons of Kubera, and he's my devotee. Therefore, for these two reasons, I must deliver these two, even though they're rascals. Just like Putana was a rascal, but Krishna saved her because she made an attempt, just like Prataparudra, who could never see Lord Chaitanya. He was able to do it when he took the position of a humble devotee. So whenever those qualities that Lord Chaitanya mentions to us, whenever those things are present, then the Lord comes under the control of a devotee. A devotee does not want to control the Lord. Otherwise, the residents of Vrindavan are not thinking, let me control Krishna. But their love, the deep love they have to please him, to make sure that he's safe. Mother Yashoda is always concerned that Krishna will be safe. And so that love is so intense that she makes sure that he is protected. So, and then in the following verse, Nemam Vidinshu Nabhavo, na imam, not this Vidinshu, not Brahma, not Bhava, not Lord Shiva, not Shri, not the supreme goddess of fortune, Apyanga Samshaya. Although she is half of, she's half of the Lord. She's one half. Prasadam lebhire gopi. None of them can even come close to getting the mercy that this gopi, Mother Yashoda, received. And she received it from Krishna, who is the liberator of the three worlds. Although he liberates the three worlds and there's a process to do so, there is no process for Mother Yashoda. There is no process there. It is simply her deep, unflinching, unswerving love for him. And then a very famous verse, close to the end of the chapter, which I'll also probably end on describing this verse. Nayam sukhapo bhagavan. No, na ayam. Not this sukha apo. Easily felt, this happiness, this bliss, or otherwise obtaining this position of being an intimate devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, na dehina, Gopika Sutta. Gopika Sutta, this son of the fortunate gopi. Those who are attached to the bodily concept of life, they can never feel this. They can never understand. They can never attain this degree of transcendental bliss. Jnani nam, nor can the great jnanis, chatmabhutanam, nor can self-sufficient yogis. They cannot achieve it. Yata bhaktimatam iha. They cannot attain what these, the devotees, and specifically devotee here, who is Gopika Sutta, Krishna is mentioned as her son, Yashoda Mai. No one can attain. Even Srila Prabhupada comments that the love of mother, why is this Damodara lila so special? because even although the gopis, their love is more intimate. Their love many times results in chastisement, anger, frustration, separation. But Mother Yashoda's love is always just pure affection to protect the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a very special kind of love, which is not even this particular, this is one of the reasons why this is called, why Radha Damodar, we don't say Yashoda Damodar, although it would seem to be more accurate, but it's Radha Damodar because Radharani saw this special love and she would come and serve Yashoda Mai to be able to attain this degree of love. And therefore, by the mercy of Yashoda, Radha Damodar, Radha ties up Krishna with her love. Her love is even supreme, although the category of Yashoda's love is very, very, very special. So this particular second verse of is very wonderful because it shows that only by loving devotion, bhakti badham, damodaram bhakti badham, the only way you can get Krishna's favor, not by any process, not by any meditation. No. Of course, when we meditate or when we follow a process, but that process is bhakti. But of course, when it no longer is a process, but it becomes raga bhakti, spontaneous devotion, then there's no more process. We may externally follow a process, just like Srila Prabhupada would externally follow the processes. Lord Chaitanya would externally follow the sannyas dharma. Internally, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was before Lord Jagannath, what did he say? That I am dasa dasa anudasa. I am the servant of the Lord of the gopis. And that's my position. So this position is being especially glorified in this second verse of the Damodara Astaka. So these are some thoughts on this particular verse. And I will stop here. I don't have time to go into the third verse today. I'll do that tomorrow. So are there any questions? Let's see in the chat here, there may be a question. So here's a question from yesterday. You mentioned in the month of Kartik, especially that one should be happy to see a devotee. The devotee wants to know how we can be happy to see a devotee who repeatedly criticizes us, who is mean to us, especially when you're trying to forgive them and move on. So I wasn't saying that specifically for them. This is Skanda Purana, which says that one should always be happy to see a devotee. So why should we be happy to see a devotee? No. We should be happy, even if the devotee is criticizing us, if we're actually Krishna conscious, and we understand the deep meaning of which Prabhupada, one of the verses that Prabhupada quoted more than practically any other verse in the Bhagavatam. Of course, there are other verses, but one of the verses he quoted many times, Tate nukampam susamikshamana mujana evatna kritam vipakam. A devotee always understands that even if someone's criticizing me, of course, this is the whole purpose of Rishabdev, who is the Supreme Lord, becoming an avaduta, and people are urinating on him, people are throwing rotten foodstuffs at him, people are insulting him, and he's smiling. He's thinking, Haridas Thakur was thinking, because I heard an offense against the Lord being whipped in 22 marketplaces was just a little touch of what I deserve. So internally, a devotee should think like that. And therefore, even if we see the devotee who may be our greatest critic, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there was one man who always criticized him. And his disciples, Bhaktisiddhanta disciples, would just practically hated this person because he criticized their Guru Maharaj. But when that man left his body, devotees were very joyous. They were practically doing kirtan. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he was my best friend because he criticized me. So therefore, as long as we have this false ego, we think that the most important thing is that I feel good because which of course Rishabdev said, Janasya moham aham mameti. Our whole problem, Janasya mohoyam, the biggest illusion in this world is thinking I and mine. I deserve this, and this is mine. Nirmamo nirahankara, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So it's very difficult, but we have to separate the false ego of being criticized from ourselves and just see that this person is a devotee, this person is worshiping Krishna, even though there may be so many faults. And even though Krishna has somehow or another made this person the instrument of my difficulties, I never think like that. Of course, Prabhupada became pretty angry at Mr. Nair, not because he was attacking Prabhupada, but because he was trying to stop the building of the temple. So we can see even with Srila Prabhupada, the one person who he became extremely angry at, it wasn't because of any criticism to him. It was because he was criticizing, he was acting against the Krishna's temple and Krishna's deity. So even if you're trying to forgive them, then what is Krishna telling you? Try harder. Or Krishna is just letting you know that in this material world, people will not act how I want them to act. People will not be how I want them to be. People will be serving Krishna's purpose. And Krishna has some purpose in this devotee or acting like this. So let me appreciate. I'm not going to associate with him. I don't enjoy his company. But let me appreciate, first of all, that somehow or another Krishna is using him or her as his instrument. And let me understand that whatever they're doing is simply a result of something that I have done in the past. So we always have to work on ourselves and not try to work on others. I always say it's very difficult to correct yourself, but it's more difficult to correct others. So I hope that helps in understanding that. We should always be happy in Damodar Mas or any time to see a devotee. This person is trying to serve Krishna. Let me facilitate them. Radharani thinks like that. And so she's teaching us. So Radha Ballabha Prabhu. See Radha Ballabha Prabhu has his hand up. Yes. I can barely hear you.
I see he is unmuted, but I'm not hearing him either.
I don't hear him. Radha Ballabha Prabhu, can you speak? We're not hearing you.
All right. Okay. So I see I'm unmuted. Thank you. My obeisances to you, Gurprasad Maharaj. Thank you for that nice lecture and for giving us some more insight on the Damodara Ashtaka. You know, we've been hearing this, we've been doing it for years and years together, and it's always nice to hear a little deeper interpretation. My question is, like, this pastime is done in the field of the Yoga Maya as compared to what we are accustomed to, Mahamaya. And so, I mean, we're seeing that Krishna is rubbing his hands, you know, he's rubbing his eyes and crying. And so does he put himself under Yoga Maya sometimes? Is that a viable question to ask?
Actually, Krishna doesn't, he doesn't like think, like a submarine commander. Now I'll go under Yoga Maya. But Yoga Maya takes over. Yoga Maya means Brinda Devi. It means so there's several manifestations of Yoga Maya. Purnamasi, Brinda Devi, and also Subhadra. She's the manifestation of Yoga Maya in Dwarka. So these manifestations of Yoga Maya, they, for different circumstances, they know what Krishna wants. Krishna's desire becomes manifest through them. So she knows, just like Yoga Maya enters. It's not Krishna's will, but it's Yoga Maya. Of course, she's acting according to Krishna's will because she's his internal energy, Swabhaviki Janabala Kriya Cha, as it says in Svatashvatara Upanishad, that these energies act automatically. So when Krishna is having these interactions, Yoga Maya is making the circumstances. Now, sometimes Krishna will put someone under Yoga Maya, like Arjuna, when he's exhibiting Bhagavad Gita, or Parikshit Maharaj. He put, or sometimes his Prabhupada. Prabhupada was under Yoga Maya when he was wondering what does Krishna want me to do here? So Krishna sometimes uses Yoga Maya like that. But Krishna allows Yoga Maya to cover him when she sees that he wants to feel the intimacy of his devotees. So it's not like he says, all right, now I'm going into Yoga Maya, and then after 10 minutes I'll come out as Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. But she knows, she knows perfectly how to do everything perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a question here. And why is this pastime celebrated beyond other pastimes? Why is this month? I briefly mentioned this yesterday because of all the childhood pastimes, this is the one that exhibits how Krishna is totally under the control of his devotee, more than any other pastime. And also it's so sweet. It's so sweet that, just like Rupa Goswami said that Goloka Vrindavan pastimes are the best, but Sanatana Goswami said that the Bauma Vrindavan pastimes are the best because you have the Damodara lila. The sweetness of the Damodara lila is so great that it bewildered Queen Kunti, it bewildered Yashoda Mai, it bewildered all the pastimes, all the residents of Vrindavan. And it liberated Nalakuvara and Manigriva and Nalakuvara. It exhibited Krishna's desire to please Narada Muni. So many wonderful things. So this pastime is very special. And of course, the other very special pastime, which is what maybe we'll discuss later, is Govardhan Lila, Govardhan Puja, and Govardhan Lila. where Krishna exhibits the pastime of exhibiting all 5 rasas at once, and which he never does anywhere else. And so this is what makes the Damodar Mas so special. And of course, added into that, Prabhupada's disappearance, right in the middle, practically in the middle, a little toward the end, but in the middle of this wonderful transcendental month. I hope that. Okay, and now Achyuta.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Yesterday you mentioned about the benefits of following certain vratas and austerities in the month of Kartik. And but I actually wanted to ask this yesterday, but time ran out. You said that one of the if you quoted from I don't know what Purana or whatever it was, but if one awakens after sunrise, he's a demon. Now there are many different quotes like that, and I mean quotes like that, you know, about disadvantages and advantages of certain things. How applicable are those things for us now, especially in Kali Yuga, for devotees?
It depends. It depends on if the so-called blessing is a blessing to advance in devotional service, or if it's liberation or less. If it's liberation or less, a devotee is not so interested. If your one is really a devotee. If it's beyond liberation, meaning if it intensifies our devotional service, then we're very interested in it. So rising before sunshine, before sunrise, what does that do? Well, first of all, we obey Srila Prabhupada, you know, the topmost pure devotee. We obey him. We prepare ourselves for serving Krishna. We participate in Mangala Arti, which means Mangala Arti means when Radha Krishna are returning from the groves, from the kunjas of Vrindavan, the Vraja kunjas, and they're ready to go to their separate homes. It's a very special time. So that's the part that the devotee is interested in, not the blessing that you get or the curse that you get. Now, if a devotee is out preaching till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, then they may not make it up before sunrise, but it will not be demoniac because it is a result of devotional service. Although Prabhupada, when he would stay up, even till sometimes, you know, his schedule would become interrupted by traveling, he would always follow the same schedule. One time he arrived in Australia, he arrived like at 7 o'clock at night. Then he went to the temple, gave a lecture. It was about 9. The lecture was at about 8:30. He finished around 9:30 with questions. Then he went up to his room at 10 o'clock after flying for 24 hours. You know? And then all these devotees started running up the stairs. So the secretary is saying, no, don't come. And Prabhupada said, yeah, let them come. And he stayed for another 45 minutes, an hour, until like 11 o'clock, speaking to the devotees. Then everybody went, and Prabhupada took rest at like 11:30 and got up at 1 o'clock and translated. You know? So we may not be able to do that, but the point is that if one is engaged in devotional service, then the rules and regulations are secondary. Just like it's stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila, I think it's Madhya 22:113, I believe. Yeah, it's a verse from Padma Purana. Smartabhyasatam Vishnur Vishmartabhyo Nakarichit Sarve Vidhi Nishedha Sur Etayor Eva Kinkaraha. That one should always remember Vishnu and never forget him. These are the 2 most important instructions. Everything else is a servant of those 2 instructions. So that's,
those quotes, is it that they are mostly applicable to Karmakanda followers and the smarter Brahmanas? And they may not.
yes, mostly for people who are under the modes of material nature. If you're under the modes of nature, then you want something to get out from under the modes of nature. If you're fully Krishna conscious, then you depend on Krishna's mercy. You're surrendered. Surrendered means I will do what Krishna wants me to do. Not I will do what I want and then seek Krishna's blessings. That's karma yoga. And if you do it only with the desire to please Krishna, but still I do what I want to do, that's niskama karma yoga. There's no personal desire other than I'm acting according to my nature. But pure devotion means whether I'm acting according to my nature or not, I simply want to please Krishna. So we have Bhagavan Narada raising his hand. Bhagavan Narada, you want to unmute?
I guess I'm unmuted now. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Obeisances. I joined a little late, so I don't know if this question was asked, but we do we do outreach, and especially this time of year, we meet new people, and if they're ready, we do Damodara. Most of the time, not. Maybe it's a little overwhelming, to have them in front of the deities or whatnot. But anyways, my question is, we do explain to people that this is a very special time of year. Anything you do spiritually is multiplied. On what basis, really, other than what we've heard from devotees? How can we prove that to somebody? Or, I've heard it's 1,000 times. You offer one ghee lamp, it's like offering 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. So, what are the facts behind that? That's kind of my question.
Well, it's not necessarily so good to say that to people who don't have faith in Krishna, because if it doesn't happen, they may think it's superstition. A devotee accepts that because if you offer with devotion, or you pull the rope of the Rath cart, Jagannath Rath Yatra, then you're liberated. So a devotee understands, yes, I'm liberated, but that liberation is not manifested. Or I may get all these blessings, but they may not be manifesting at this point in time. So, but a non-devotee will think, well, I'm going to get something from this. Increase in wealth. And if it doesn't happen, then they lose faith. Therefore, if we explain glories to people who have no faith, these are glories of devotional service, or glories of Krishna or his holy name, then if the people can't understand, better just to teach them the basics and just engage them in, we do this, it's nice, it's auspicious, we offer these lamps, and that will help you advance in spiritual life. I would say that's as far as one should go in one's explanation, because otherwise, if you give too many details and it doesn't happen, they may lose faith.
Thank you.
Mother Pachatattva. I see you have your hand up, but you're muted. One time I told someone they were muted. They thought I said they were mutant. That sounds pretty ominous, no? I'm not sure I understood that. Did anyone understand that? It sounded like coming from Mars now, transmission from Mars. There you are.
Yeah.
You have your hand up on one side and speaking from another side.
So, Maharaj,
Yes.
You were talking about the two fingers and the significance of the two fingers, and you said effort and mercy. So they represent effort and mercy.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that. Does it mean that we have to first make effort in order to receive the mercy? Or because why I'm thinking about that is that, you know, we always want mercy. We always sometimes we feel that we deserve mercy, but many times, you know, we don't really want to make too much of an effort. But is it dependent? Is the mercy dependent on the effort? That's what I want to find out.
Yeah. No, the mercy must come first, and it does come first. Otherwise, none of us would make an effort in devotional service unless we found out that, unless the mercy is already there. The mercy of a devotee giving us prasadam, a book, the mercy of devotees opening a center or a temple, the mercy of Srila Prabhupada coming to the West. The mercy is there first. But then once we receive the mercy, and what is the real mercy? The real mercy is Shravanam Kirtanam, that we get instruction and we act on that instruction. That is the real mercy. Once we take that mercy, then the efforts to please Krishna can begin. However, Krishna's mercy is so extensive that sometimes that mercy is not perceived. That's called Gyata Sukriti. That just like there's a story in the Padma Purana that there was a mouse who was very hungry, and he went on the altar and he was trying to eat the ghee lamp. You know, those Indian ghee lamps, you know, they're like clay, but the ghee lamp lies down. It's not standing up. So he was trying to bite it, but as he bit it, he pushed the lamp. It was almost ready to go out. And because he pushed the lamp and the flame rose again, it became strong again, he was liberated. You know? And there was a bird that was being chased by a dog or a fox or some animal. And he was flying around the altar, and the dog or whatever fox was behind him. And because he flew around the altar many times, he was liberated. Now we shouldn't think, well, let me do that. You know, let me take a ghee lamp and a ghee wick and push it, and then I'll go back home, back to Godhead. But it's just showing the extent of the mercy. But the mercy has to be there first. But if we don't respond to the mercy, if we don't make the effort, then the mercy, otherwise we won't be able to perceive, then the mercy will come in a different form, which is not so pleasing. Like we may get some problem. That is also Krishna's mercy. So actually everything that's happening in our lives, in one sense, is Krishna's mercy. But we get special mercy, and the mercy becomes more direct and more special the more we make an effort to please Krishna. That's how it works. So it's kind of an interchange, you know, an interdependent thing, but the mercy is always first. Is there any other question? Here's Taruna Radha Devi. Yes, you have you're muted. Your microphone is muted.
Hare Krishna, Gurudeva. Please accept my humble obeisances. Once again, the same question. When Krishna will be leaving to Dwaraka, he will be leaving Yashoda mother. And you said last time he's doing this because he wants to make love of gopis to feel, to be bigger, something like this. But why he is leaving Yashoda, Mother Yashoda?
Well, he engages all of the residents of Vrindavan in separation. It's not just for the gopis, just that the gopis are the most overwhelmed because they're the ones that spend more time with Krishna and they meditate more intensely on Krishna than anyone. So therefore, but it's not just the gopis, as Mother Yashoda, they all feel separation. So Krishna is increasing the intensity of their meditation on him by being separated. And also, another reason why he leaves is that if he spent his whole lifetime in Vrindavan, no one would believe that, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They would just, already they think because 11 years he's in Vrindavan, that it seems like, that so many people become bewildered by his intimate pastimes with his devotees. What to speak of, he spent the whole time in Vrindavan of his earthly pastimes. So he wants to show the pastime of becoming a king, just like in Dwarka, when Krishna wakes up, what does he do? He gets up, he bathes, he cleans himself, he shows us what to do, and then he meditates on himself because there's no one else. He could meditate on Radharani, but that wouldn't be very instructive. So in Dwarka, many things that Krishna does are instructive, although not everything that Krishna does is always instructive, meaning it's not, it doesn't always show us some example, like marrying 16,108 wives. That's not something Krishna is not giving us an example to follow. No. He's simply showing his opulence. So he shows his opulence in Dwarka, and he shows his intimacy in Vrindavan. But that intimacy can only be shown for a certain amount of time. Otherwise, it becomes too much for the conditioned souls to even fathom. I hope that's okay. Thank you. So any other question? Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your kind attention. We will continue tomorrow at 11 a.m. Trinidad time, 10 a.m. my time, and other people's time, and some other time maybe for some other people. So either 10 Eastern time, 11 Eastern time, 10 Central time in the US, in Mexico 10 o'clock, Trinidad 11 o'clock.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for part 2 of this mini series. So as you said, tomorrow morning, this coincides with our Sunday feast lecture for Trinidad and Guyana. It would be 11 a.m., which is our lecture time for the Sunday program. And so that would be part 3 of this mini series. And so we invite all the devotees to please join in tomorrow. Trinidad time would be 11 a.m. And as Maharaj said, the varying times for different locations. So I'm seeing here 8 a.m. California time. So it's different countries are logging on and taking part in this wonderful Sangha. So Maharaj, thank you so very much. It's always a pleasure having you and giving us so much nectar. So we will continue tomorrow morning. Thanks to all the devotees who have joined in. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Trinidad time. Maharaj, thank you so much again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Damodara, lila, Shri Damodara Astakam ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanandi, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai.